Pear Jam. This is a traditional recipe from my grandma, Ina Meekum. That's my mom's mom. And so I ate spicy pear jam as a little girl and love it. So every year in the fall I look for some pears. These are Bartlett pears. And as you see here on the table, there are a variety of sizes. These I got from a farmer, actually a lady, and she farms and she sells them. So I have a little puny pear and a big pear, and here's one that's not very ripe yet. I bought these pears about 10 days ago, and so I've been working on them and just preparing the ripe ones. And then all of a sudden they kind of all got ripe at the same time, except for that one green one. There's a few green ones here that aren't ripe. So the way you ripen pears is I brought the box home and then I just laid them out on this table, and that's more than anything just so I can take a look at them as they ripen. And so just every other day or so I just come take a look and see how they're doing, because you don't want them actually to get soft. Like peaches you want to be soft, pears you do not want to be. If they're soft, they're overly ripe and they're not going to be very easy to peel, number one, and they're just too mushy. So you actually want to catch them just when they're just a golden color and nice and firm, and so that's how you choose them. And I just kind of do it by eyeballing them, and occasionally I'll get one that's really hard. As I peel it, I'm going to be able to tell that it might not have been as ripe as the others, but that's actually fine. They cook down beautifully to make the jam. Well, there's my full bowl of pears. Now we're going to head into the kitchen so we can peel them. I'm peeling the pears now, and this is the most time-consuming part because they're little cute pears. And so you want to find a peeler. This is just actually a $1 peeler I got at IKEA. But I like it because it doesn't take a whole lot of the fruit off. You just want one that peels pretty thin little peels off. And you don't have to get it perfectly done, but just generally get it peeled off. And I'm just slipping them in this bowl because I'm going to cut the centers out, and then I'm going to chop them into smaller pieces over here. So once you have the pear peeled, and that's just most of the skin off from the blossom end to the stem end, then you're going to want to take the core out. So I usually get kind of a bowl full of the peeled pears, and then I move to the coring portion. You go ahead and cut it in half, which exposes the seeds, and then there's this fibrous line that comes from the stem end down into the seed. And so you want to remove those fibers as well as the seeds. So the easiest thing is just to take the knife, insert it around the seeds, and kind of go in a circular motion that kind of gets that cut out. And you don't really have to cut a lot out, just the seed itself. And then the next step would be to, after you slice them in half and core them, is to chop them into small pieces. Now spicy pear jam has kind of a chunky texture, but you don't want it with big pieces because even cooking it down, they won't smash, and you don't want to puree it because that would remove all the texture. So you have to actually take time and cut them pretty small. I'd say probably a 1/4 inch square. So we're ready to get these pears cooking on the stove. I have 8 cups of pears chopped finely. Not too finely, but pretty well. So I'm just going to put those in to the pan. And then we're going to add, so that's 8 cups, so half of that in sugar, 4 cups of sugar. So for a jam recipe, this is a low sugar jam. Often jams have twice as much sugar as fruit, which is a little shocking to me, but anyway, that's another reason I like spicy pear jam. It's not full of sugar. Well, it is, but less sugar than most. And then you're going to use cinnamon, a teaspoon of cinnamon for this amount of pear. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. And now I buy my ground cloves, they're pretty pricey if you buy them in the small containers. So I buy them at a place that sells them in bulk. Like we have Winco around here. Anyway, so you can find more economical ways to buy your ground cloves. And we're just going to turn the heat on to, let's see, I'm going to put it on like 5, so it's a medium heat here. And because we're going to get it to boil. but we're gonna just take a little time to incorporate the pear and the sugar. And it takes a little while because there's not a lot of juice right off in the pear. The cooking actually brings the juice out of the pears. So, but just get the sugar and the cinnamon and the cloves all just sort of stirred in with the pear. And then we're going to continue to stir it occasionally while it's cooking. The recipe calls for cooking it down, which means you just let it simmer here on the stove for a couple of hours. And what that does is it thickens the jam and allows the sugar to completely dissolve and just gives it a nice amber color. So that's where some of the magic happens, is letting it cook down. There we go, they're all kind of stirred in. You can see the sugar and the juice of the pear starting to come out. And there's some bigger pieces in there. So I might get a potato masher and kind of mush those up as they get cooked down a little bit so that I can have a little finer jam. All right, so I have it on a medium heat. It's been going for about, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes here. And so when it starts to bubble, you know, vigorously like this, and you can't really stir it down, you want to drop the heat down to like a simmer. So we're going to put it down. That's a 2 on my stove. But just kind of watch it. You do want to have it maintain a little bit of a simmer, but you don't want to caramelize it or burn it at all. And it's just going to bubble along here and cook down. Okay, so the jam is done cooking and it kind of cooks down. It becomes a little thicker, you'll see, and more, it doesn't have any pectin in it. Usually you put pectin in the jam to make it thick, but with this, as you cook it down, it just thickens on its own. And after it sets up and cools, because this is warm, it'll even be more thick enough that it can stand a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I have this jar in the 170 degree, just the lowest heat that my oven will go on. So I just left it there to sterilize this jar. And I use the wide mouth funnel so that it can make sure that all this spicy pear jam makes it into the jar. Now this is my last little bit of jam here, but if you have like a big pot of jam, then you would just want to use like a ladle to get that in there. And then after I'm done, I'm pulling out we've heated the lid. And it's really important that you wipe off the rim of the jar, just so there's no any sugar grains or drops or anything. Just center the lid on there and then put the collar right on it. Okay, so we have all the bottles of jam here in the canner, and it has a rack. Now these are smaller bottles, so they're not going to fit in this rack as well, but this one does 7 bottles at a time. That's just the size of the canner I have. And you just want to make sure that the water is over the top of the bottles so that they will be completely immersed in the boiling water. And I'm doing it on a camp stove out here because it keeps the heat out of the kitchen and because it boils way faster than on my regular stove. So we just get this to a boil, and then all it has to do is boil for 10 minutes, which is so nice because it's just really fast. So we can get those jars processed really quickly. And so I usually leave the lid off like this just so that I can see the steam coming out, since it's not in my kitchen. And so when I see the steam coming out, then I go push the timer for 10 minutes, put that lid like that. When the timer goes off, then I am done and I'm going to pull it off. So we'll just show you the finished product here in a moment. All right, so the timer just went off. It's been 10 minutes and these are all done processing. And I just have this really cool little tong. You can buy these at actually I just got this at a grocery store. And it just holds onto the bottles and you pull them out. So there you have it. Beautiful, delicious, spicy pear jam. It's pretty easy.